And this seminar is going to be about the patent as a common theme and also as a red thread. And it's divided into two different sections or two different sessions. And in the first session, we're going to put the patent on a greater, at least attempt to put the patent on a greater map to see where it fits in the process of value creation. And then in the second session, we are going to look at the patent itself, what it is, how it's handled, and what good it's doing in this value creation process. And I'm also going to give you some very direct practical tips on how to handle patents in your everyday circumstances. So here you'll find the first page of a patent from 1915. And the patent holder claims to have invented a general vaccine against cancer in humans. That's a pretty bold claim, I would say. And it's pretty bold also if you consider what the working hypothesis was behind all this. The working hypothesis was that all human cancers come from foreign cells, from mammary glands of some animals. In this case, cows and camels or goats, or whatever you get milk from that you drink. So the working hypothesis was that if you drink milk, you will inject these cells into yourself, and those will cause cancer. And I think the patent holder would have to give up this working hypothesis at some point, because today, more than 100 years later, at least to the best of my knowledge, there is no such thing as a general cancer vaccine. But I think that we can all agree that it would be very desirable with such a thing, and that would be great for all humans. So, talking about what is great for all humans, let's move over and look a little bit on human progress. The top left graph here illustrates the expected life expectancy. And you can see that it has risen with almost 10 years from about 1960 to today. So it's a rising curve. And the curve down here on the bottom right side is, as you can see, pretty flat. And that curve illustrates the death rates of a certain type of brain cancer. So one conclusion you can draw from this is that in order to be able to rise this even further, then you would definitely have to address this flat curve and make it decrease. Otherwise, this flatness will show itself here in the flattening of this curve also, and the cause of death will inevitably be almost, in all cases, cancer. So that is a really strong argument for having to devote more resources into cancer research, and I think you will all agree that, or at least most of the audience would agree that that would be a good idea. So what is it then that has caused this increase in life expectancy, and which might also be something that could cause a decrease in this now flat curve? Well, I would claim that this is to a large extent due to new readily available products, new products that create value for all of us humans. And I'm not saying that all new products would create value. I could think of lots of new products that comes out on the market that wouldn't would provide no benefit at all. You could imagine the automatic banana peeler, for instance, or things like that. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about products like antibiotics, for instance, and also in these times when I have to stand in front of the camera and imagine that I'm talking to you, you could see that this new vaccine against the SARS-CoV-2 infection is a new product that has definitely been beneficial for the human race. Also, I'm not saying that product is the only thing that would contribute to human progress. One thing that is good is that we make sure that we live in a society where our kids all have access to school so that they can learn how to write and read. That is also good for human progress, of course. So let's look closer into where does this new product come from. In most cases, I would claim that these comes from the business, from the business efforts that is put into this. And so the output from business is new products. In most cases, these products would be beneficial for us all. But what is then the input to business? Well, I would claim that this is a new innovation. The business needs something to work on, to develop further, so that they could come out with their output, which would be in the form of a new product. Let's take this new corona vaccine as an example. So Pfizer came out with this new corona vaccine. And Pfizer is, in this case, the business. You might say that maybe BioNTech was the one that developed this vaccine from the beginning, but doesn't matter. For simplicity, I'll refer to it as Pfizer because they had a deal with it. So the innovation that fed into this business was really the combination of two different things. First of all, one invention in combination with a scientific discovery. So what was the invention that caused this innovation in turn? Well, the innovation was the synthetic liposome, which you might chart with a chemical interior and make it deliver to the human cell. And the other discovery which was necessary to come up with this innovation was the very old now discovery that messenger RNA actually causes the human cell to produce proteins, which in turn makes the human system, human immune system responsive and can attack the coronavirus which comes in. So the innovation is a combination of two different things. In this case, quite recent invention in combination with a pretty old discovery. So where does academic research and so forth come into all of this? Well, I would say that research, and in particular STEM research, I have to pause a little bit here. I would say that in front of this audience, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and medicine, nothing else. Well, this kind of STEM research definitely feeds into invention. The scientific discovery might be an invention in itself, or it can very easily be turned into an invention. And in particular in Sweden, I would say, this kind of research is closely associated with business also. And that is due to the legal system, or the system that we have decided to have here, which states that any scientific discovery made at a public university in Sweden belongs to the researcher him or herself. So the researcher him or herself is allowed to do business with their research discoveries if they wish to do. And of course, it could be debated if that is a good thing or not. And I guess that time will tell if that is a good decision or not. So let's look a little bit on the incentives for business. As you all know, main incentive for doing business is money. You want to make a profit with your business, and unless you make a profit, you can't keep your business. So you can easily imagine also that these hands striving upwards, trying to reach for the profit or for the money, in this case, to drive the business. Down here, they're competing fiercely with each other. Maybe they're stabbing back with the other hand and keeping a knife. But you can imagine that there's a fierce competition going on, because each and one of those business owners wants to be the first to come up with this new product. Okay, this new product might give the business owner a profit, but it might give the rest of us, hopefully, a new thing that is beneficiary for all of us, and actually contributes to positive human progress. So if you look into the incentive for the researcher or the scientist, at least the classical incentive there is curiosity. Curiosity is the essence of the scientific mind. This guy here explains to, I think she's called Lisa. But you could also imagine that there might be something in the back of his mind, maybe a small economic incentive also, which might or might not bias the kind of research he's carrying out. Now, we haven't spoken about that yet, so it's time to get it into the playing field here. So the patent is very closely related to an invention. It might be looked upon as equivalent with an invention. Sorry. Just keep that in mind. What else could I say here? Well, I could already at this point point out that it's easy to understand that the business owner, of course, would like to get his or her hands onto the patent, because that is a business asset, definitely. Because the patent, and we will get into that in detail further on, but the patent basically gives the business exclusivity for a limited time on the market. So that is an asset that you really want to be able to fight off your competitors in this fierce competition for the new product. So I have to stop here a little bit. You heard that I stumbled already on innovation and invention, and they're almost pronounced the same, but there is a great difference between them. First of all, we already know that the invention is closely associated with a patent. And if you look at what an innovation is, everybody's speaking about innovation today. If you look it up in, for instance, the Cambridge Dictionary, you'll see that the definition for it is the use of a new idea or method. And if you look into the definition for an invention, you'll find out that it is a novel scientific or technical idea having utility and being non-obvious. So what is the difference then between invention and innovation? Well, first of all, you note that the invention has to be technical or scientific in nature. And the most perhaps important difference between these two concepts would be the non-obviousness. In order to classify something as an invention, it has to be non-obvious. The innovation is not limited by this, so an innovation could actually be obvious. And if you could also explain it in a more mathematical way, and that is that the invention constitutes a subset of the innovation. Thus, anything that could be classified as an invention would also, by definition, be an innovation. But something that is an innovation does not necessarily have to be an invention. Let me illustrate this with the classical example of the pencil. So at the point in time when the pencil was invented, it was definitely an invention because it is, I would say, definitely non-obvious that the core of the pencil would have to be made out of graphite. For instance, you could see at early pencils, they had a core made out of lead, but lead is of course poisonous, is something we would like to avoid. So it's not obvious that you could substitute the lead with graphite. So that was definitely an invention. Also, the eraser was definitely an invention at the point in time when this eraser first saw the light of the day. It is, of course, non-obvious how to compose the rubber and how to come up with a good recipe for rubber that you could use for making an eraser, which would selectively get rid of the graphite from the paper without touching the paper itself. On the other hand, if you face the problem of, if you have the problem of having to look for the eraser all the time when you have made a writing error and you find that really annoying, you can't find it, then you might want to put the eraser at the end of the cup of your pencil so that you always have it with you when you write. The only thing you would have to do is to turn it off and rub off the error you made. That is an innovation. It's also a problem and it's useful. It could also be, you could also do business around it. It could be an input to business. It's a useful product, definitely, and takes care of this really annoying problem of having to find your eraser wallet. Now let's shift gears a little bit. So this guy here is Sergey Levito. He was an active scientist at St. Petersburg University at the beginning of the 1900s. So he was, I guess that he was at least partly driven by his curiosity and his interest in butadiene, which is this small molecule here. He was interested in what the properties of butadiene, how does butadiene polymerize, what catalyst would cause butadiene to polymerize, and also how could you synthesize it. And in particular, he was interested in how could you synthesize butadiene from ethanol, which is the other molecule up here in the left corner. So what Sergey contributed to this this chain towards new product with was, first of all, the invention of a method for the production of synthetic rubber. Because when he polymerized this butadiene, he came up with a material that very much resembled natural rubber. It had the same properties, so it was a synthetic rubber, very useful. And the innovation is, in this case, is a combination of Sergey's new invention in combination with a very old invention, namely how to produce ethanol from potatoes by fermentation. Remember, ethanol was the starting material in the synthesis of butadiene. So the innovation in this case could be defined as a method for production of synthetic rubber from potatoes. We'll note here that that the business box is not yet filled with anything, and we don't know exactly what the new product was in this case. Well, the new product was, of course, tires for military vehicles made out of synthetic rubber. Basically, tires for military vehicles made out of potatoes. And the driving force in this case was the conditions of war. So we had a competition still, but it was not a competition between different companies. It was rather the competition between the countries or groups of countries under the conditions of war. And this is just one example. You could find several other examples where you have products that has become useful and is used today, even like the radar and so forth. You wouldn't be able to take a journey or vacation journey to Thailand unless we had radars to keep track of all the planes in the sky. Well, at this point, I would like to summarize a little bit what I have said so far. So, human progress and welfare is largely dependent on new products we have seen. I have made a probable explanation why it could be so. Science, research, and business normally are key players in the development of new products. Thus, science, research, and business are, in a sense, necessary for human progress. The patentable invention is a subset of the business's explorable innovation. And patents are thus desirable for business due to the competitive advantage granted by the state. And we will dig into that further as we, after the Q&A, dig into the patent itself in a little bit more detail. So having said that, I would be happy and I will try to do the best I can to answer any questions or comments that you might have at this point.